Let's start with a radical idea. What if the entire way we've been taught to search for a meaningful life is completely flawed? What if meaning isn't some treasure you stumble upon, but a structure you have to build bolt by bolt, action by action?
And that right there, that's the core promise of this explainer. You know, the profound satisfaction some people find in the most mundane things, while others feel totally empty despite massive success, well, it has nothing to do with luck. It's all about a deliberate neurological and psychological process. So, for the next 12 minutes, we're handing you the blueprint, the actual architectural plans for a life that feels significant from the inside out. And this isn't some abstract philosophy. This is an engineering protocol.
All right, here's our roadmap. We're going to kick things off with the meaning paradox. Then we'll diagnose the existential barrier that gets in the way of fulfillment. From there, we'll unpack the three-part system, dig into the neuroscience that makes it all work, and give you a concrete 3-step protocol you can start using today. And finally, we'll talk about what it really means to be the architect of your own significance. So let's just get this foundational principle locked in. Our culture is constantly telling us to find our purpose, right? Like it's a destination on a map just waiting for us. But that's the meaning paradox. This passive search for some grand singular purpose, it usually just leads to anxiety and this feeling that we're falling behind. The real secret is that meaning isn't an outcome. It's an active process. It is something that is structurally engineered when you consciously link your smallest, most immediate actions to your highest, most transcendent values. It's not bound, it's built.
Okay, but if it's an active process, why do so many of us feel so adrift? To get that, we need to diagnose the invisible psychological wall that makes fulfillment feel so incredibly fragile in our modern world. And we call this the existential barrier.
So the foundation of this barrier is a state of nihilism, an existential drift. Now, this isn't about being some gloomy pessimist. It's much subtler. It's about lacking a strong internalized story of what you value, a kind of core filter for how you make decisions. And without that filter, you're just susceptible to every external pressure, every internal doubt. It creates this constant low-grade hum of aimlessness, that feeling that you're just going through the motions. And to try and fill that internal void, what do? We chase hedonic rewards. You know what I'm talking about. Those quick hits of external validation. Praise from your boss, likes on social media, a new gadget. They give you a temporary jolt of pleasure, sure, but they are incredibly fragile. Relying on them for your self-worth is literally like building your house on sand. It just creates this vicious cycle of needing more and more validation, and that's the fast track to burnout and a full-blown identity crisis.
And this really shows the critical difference. On one side, you've got external rewards. Their source is outside of you, their stability is totally volatile, it depends on what other people think, and the outcome is usually anxiety and burnout. But on the other side, you have internal meaning. Its source is you, your chosen values, its stability is rock solid because it doesn't depend on outside events, and the outcome? Resilience, fulfillment, and a deep sense of purpose. You have to consciously choose which system you're going to run your life on.
So, how do we build that internal system? Well, this brings us from the diagnosis straight to the architectural blueprint, the 3-part system for constructing significance. Think of this as the engineer's guide to a meaningful life. The whole system is made up of 3 distinct, really powerful phases. First up is the Transcendent Value Audit. This is where you define your unshakable why. Second, the Value-Action Linkage. This is the core engine where you connect the mundane to the meaningful. And third, the Legacy Rehearsal. This is how you reinforce and really start to embody that new meaning. Let's break down how this actually works. Now, the engine of this entire system. It's not about changing what you do. It's about fundamentally changing how you perceive what you do. The core mechanism is a forced cognitive reframe. You are consciously, deliberately creating a mental bridge between a task that feels totally meaningless and a value that you have personally defined as sacred and non-negotiable. Let's use a painfully common example: filing administrative reports. I mean, on the surface, this task is the very definition of low-meaning work. It's tedious, it's repetitive, and it feels completely disconnected from anything important. It's the kind of work that just drains your soul and makes you question your life choices. But now, let's bring in the first part of our system, a transcendent value. Let's say that through your value audit, you've identified that one of your core unshakable values is integrity or cultivating order. Now, this isn't just a preference. It's a high-stakes, deeply personal principle. It's actually part of your identity. And here it is. This is the linkage, the cognitive reframe in action. You change the internal story. You're no longer just filing reports. Instead, you are practicing the discipline of creating order from chaos. You are embodying integrity in the small things. See? The task itself hasn't changed one bit, but its meaning has been completely transformed. It's now an opportunity to be the person you claim to be. Now, I know this might sound like a simple mind trick, but it's actually grounded in some serious psychological and neurological principles. This is not just positive thinking, it's a neurological upgrade. So let's look under the hood at why this system works so well, how you are literally engineering your brain for meaning. There are three main things going on here. First, this system activates your brain's own intrinsic motivation circuitry. Second, it powerfully resolves something called cognitive dissonance, which is a huge source of mental friction and exhaustion. And third, it strengthens your psychological resilience by building what we call a cognitive buffer. So let's start with intrinsic motivation. When you successfully connect an action to a core value, your brain stops seeing it as a chore. It sees it as an affirmation of your identity. And this triggers a sustained, low-level release of dopamine, the motivation molecule. Now, unlike that sharp, addictive spike you get from an external reward, this is a steady flow that makes the task itself feel rewarding. This is the neurological gateway to hitting a state of flow, where you're just completely immersed and engaged. Next up, cognitive dissonance. This is that mental stress and discomfort you feel when your actions are out of sync with your beliefs. It is profoundly exhausting. But by constantly aligning your small, daily actions with your chosen legacy identity, the person you're trying to become, you get rid of that friction. Meaningful behavior stops feeling like a struggle and starts feeling effortless, automatic, because you're simply acting like, well, you. And finally, there's the cognitive buffer. Think of this like mental armor. When your life is grounded in a strong internal sense of meaning, external chaos just has less power over you. Neurologically, this practice strengthens the executive functions of your prefrontal cortex. And what that does is it improves your ability to pause, regulate your emotions, and respond rationally to stress instead of just reacting impulsively. It is the very foundation of real resilience. Okay, we've gone over the theory, we've gone over the science. Now for the most important part, how to actually do it. Let's shift into a pragmatic coaching mode. This is your clear, actionable, three-step protocol to start constructing a more significant life right now. No more ambiguity. Here are the three non-negotiable steps. First, you have to define your top 3 transcendent values in the value audit. Second, you're going to practice the reframe with one single task you currently hate using the linkage drill. And third, you're going to lock in that change by asking the hero's question in the legacy rehearsal. So step 1, the value audit. And you have to take this seriously. What are the 3 principles that are absolutely non-negotiable for you? Think about peak moments in your life. What value was being honored? Think about your biggest regrets. What value was being violated? These aren't just nice ideas. They are your personal North Star. Maybe it's integrity or growth or compassion or freedom. Whatever they are, write them down. Step 2 is the linkage drill. Pick one small high-friction task you dread doing. Let's just say it's cleaning the kitchen. Now, link it to one of your chosen values. If your value is clarity or peace, you don't just clean the kitchen. You verbally or even just in your head, reframe it. I'm cultivating an environment of clarity and peace for myself and my family. Can you feel that shift? The task is no longer a chore. It's an act of service to your highest self. And finally, step 3, the legacy rehearsal. This is what anchors the emotional reward into your identity. Before you begin that reframed task, just ask yourself this powerful question. How would the hero of my life story perform this small act? The hero, your ideal self, wouldn't do it sloppily or resentfully, would they? They'd do it with focus, with integrity, with purpose. This question transforms the action into a rehearsal for the person you are actively becoming. So let's bring all this together. The central metaphor, the one key takeaway is this. You are not a passive observer in the story of your life. You are the architect. You are the one who is responsible for the design and the construction of a life that feels significant. So if you take nothing else away from this, let it be this. Your sense of significance is not an accident of fate. It is not something that just happens to you if you get lucky. It is a structural necessity that you are responsible for building, day by day, task by task. So stop waiting for some grand meaning to arrive from the outside and start constructing it right here, right now.
So to recap this whole masterclass, meaning construction is the solution to the modern problems of nihilism and emotional burnout. And why this matters is that it gives you a systematic way to activate your own intrinsic motivation and achieve psychological consistency. The framework, using the value-action linkage and the legacy rehearsal, works because it resolves cognitive dissonance and strengthens your resilience, building a cognitive buffer against all the chaos in the world. And remember, productivity isn't about doing more. It's about mastering systems that make focus effortless.
In the end, it really all comes down to a choice. Significance isn't a feeling you wait for. It's a structure you build. It is a choice you make over and over again in the smallest of moments. So the question I'm going to leave you with is this: what will you choose to build tomorrow?